take some words that he will be here. So I'm going to get us started. Everyone, please rise for the pledge of allegiance and prayer. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for this community and its people, and thank you for the city employees that serve our community. I pray that you guide and direct us in everything that we say that we do as we conduct city business. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Roll call. Alderman Williams.
Present.
I am present. Alderman Whalen.
Present.
Alderwoman Cisco.
Yes, present.
City Administrator Burbridge.
Present.
City Clerk Kohler.
Present.
City Attorney Weber.
Present.
Chief of Police Chase.
Present.
Interim Public Works Director. Finance Director Houston.
Present.
And so we have Donnie and Brent with us as well. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the.
Make a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
And I was gonna tell everybody.
All right, so we can call for the vote. Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Alderman Williams.
Yes.
Alderwoman Cisco.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
They'll probably tell Pat not to be like.
Next, we have the consent agenda.
But we have an election coming up, so I have to find out what's going
I
on.
move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Alderman Williams.
Yes.
Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Alderwoman Cisco.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Next on our agenda, we have Scott and Brian from the Missouri 911 Service Board.
Yeah.
And we'll hand it over to Scott.
All right. First off, I'd like to thank this group for inviting us down here, and then thank Joe for lining this up. Understood you guys had some questions about what we were doing and what the progress is on the projects that we have going on down here. My name is Scott Kaysen. I'm the Next Gen 911 Implementation Manager for the Missouri 911 Services Board. And
My name is Brian Maple. I'm the Executive Director for the 911 Service Board.
so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but probably about 10 years ago, the state of Missouri was looking for oversight for 911 in the state of Missouri. And we needed some kind of a board and some kind of a funding for that board. To give you a background on me, I was the 911 director in Crawford County, and then I was president of the Missouri 911 Directors Association. And during that time, we lobbied pretty extensively to implement a board of directors for the state of Missouri for oversight. We don't come in and tell people what to do or anything like that. We try to bring the standards of 911 throughout the state to an EI3 level of standard. That did finally get passed. The board was implemented. It is funded through a prepaid wireless tax throughout the state of Missouri. And that board of directors then hired a director and then ended up hiring a next generation 911 implementation manager. Just recently, there were a considerable amount of ARPA funds available in the state of Missouri for both cities and counties and different things. Our board's lobbyist was able to get some funds directed from the governor's office, roughly around $28 million. And the primary goal of that was there was a series of counties throughout the state of Missouri, not only to enhance 911 to where you can both locate and know who is calling, also text 911 and different things like that throughout the state, but there are 7 counties right now still in the state of Missouri that you can't even dial 911. You dial 911, you call it. If you can't tell them, if you're mentally incapacitated, and you can't tell those folks where you are, who you are, what's going on, they don't have any recourse or any way to find out who you are. It's a 10-digit number. You're talking to someone on the other end of the line, and you're giving them all the information. Next generation 911 brings a geospatial location to your cell phone. It gives you the ability to text to your cell phone. It also brings all kinds of other features and functionality that is starting to take hold throughout the state. So the state of Missouri has started organically throughout the PSAPs, Public Safety Answering Points of the state of Missouri. Like Crawford has one PSAP. That county is unique. They have a primary PSAP, which is the Sheriff's Department, and then they have a secondary call answering center, which is the Salem Police Department. So you have to But those PSAPs and throughout the state have started with technology advancements to virtually consolidate. You used to say virtually consolidate, or you used to say consolidation, and it was like saying a cuss word in some counties. You couldn't consolidate. I actually came down here and spoke about 9 years ago about a board and implementation and stuff like that. That was not the environment this group wanted. So this path with virtual consolidation brings that to light. So you can have a primary PSAP in Dent County. So someone dials 911 in the city of Salem or Dent County, it goes to the Dent County Sheriff's Office. Should that call be geospatially located, landline located in a business or any of those things, that call immediately gets transferred to the Salem Police Department. Salem Police Department gets that transfer and now has the ability to show the Annie in the alley, the location and the information of that caller. Also has the ability to possibly text to 911 if you're in a house, someone's entered your house, you can't talk, something like that. You have the ability to text 911 from a closet and start communicating with that dispatcher and tell them someone's in my home, someone's there. Those are some of the features and availabilities that we're bringing to this region. Another one is the virtual consolidation piece with all the counties. So down here, and like I said, organically, and I'm holding a map, but in the Northeast region, this blue group of counties are consolidating. We're calling this the Mark Twain region simply because I drive through it constantly. I see Mark Twain National Forest signs. Live in Crawford County, half that county is Mark Twain National Forest, so we call it Mark Twain National Forest region. That is 13 counties down here in this region. 7 of those counties don't have 911. Dent County does have a flavor of enhanced 911. You can call 911 from your cell phone and it'll locate a tower close to where you're at or something like that. You do have the landline phones that should come back to that center. What you don't have right now is the ability for the Dent County Sheriff's Department to transfer all that information over to Salem PD. So that's one thing we're looking to do here with the virtual consolidation. God forbid, should a tornado hit the city of Salem and take both of your call centers out, with a virtual consolidation piece through some of these vendors that offer these products, you could have a rollover PSAP and you could dial 911 in the Walmart parking lot. Nothing is here to answer it, but through the counties and the city's heads, choose who's your rollover county. So that's gonna immediately go to either Reynolds County or go to Shannon County or go to another county. They're still going to be able to see your Annie, your alley information, your location, where you're at, where you're calling from, and be able to bring that information back to your public services here and dispatch units of however they need to be dispatched. So what is going on right now is organically this region is being built. We also worked with the board, with the company, and we brought in Mission Critical Partners as a consulting firm a while back. And within what's going on? Within that, they made the suggestion, and it's their recommendation, that this group, and by this group I mean Dent County, Shannon County, Oregon, Ripley, Carter, Wayne County, and Bollinger County, join an existing group that is already up here with St. Francis, Iron, Reynolds, St. Genevieve, and Perry. So there's one that already exists and is virtually consolidated, where St. Francis County has a PSAP that runs for Iron, Reynolds has their own PSAP, Public Safety Answering Point, St. Genevieve is dispatched out of St. Francis, and then Perry has their own. That already existed and that infrastructure existed, and they said, let's bring this virtual consolidation piece and this group into this county with this system. Because what we want to do is, like I said, organically these regions are forming throughout the state. To the west of you, there's another region with Texas White, right, goes all the way to Webster. Down in the Branson region, you're looking at, Barry Stone, Christian, Springfield Green does their own thing. Just north of here, you've got Crawford, Phelps, Marys, Pulaski. They're actually forming a region. Laclede may go that way. But this group down here is the one you're obviously primarily interested in. So we got about $28 to $30 million, and the priority region was this region. This region needs the most enhancement to the 911 services and systems. So there are number one grant ask, and it goes through a grant process. So what the best route was for this entire region to apply for one grant with all of the counties and the infrastructure that they need. So Dent County and all the other counties are bringing in the call handling systems to where they can actually accept the 911 call. They are also bringing in these features that help the dispatchers send the information to the responders on the location. So all of this information comes in through these systems that we are now offering through the state of Missouri. The grant itself, most grants you think, okay, it's a grant, what skin in the game do we have here? This is between you and the county, but this grant is a 90-10 grant. So it is 90% funded, 10% comes from the counties that do this. The one thing with this grant is that anything that was purchased within this entire region for 911 enhancement within the last 2 years, if you have a paid invoice that shows what that system was, that covers that 10% for that region. Right now, we do have some of these counties that you guys are all coming in with that have spent probably close to what we are thinking is going to be the total dollar amount for the entire grant for the entire region. So there may be the ability to have zero out of pocket for everything that we're doing for the city and the county. That's a 1,000-foot view of what's going on alongside of this grant, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, and that's what we were just discussing. There is another avenue for grants for GIS. So with enhanced 911 and geospatial routing, you have to have 911 addressing within your county up to NENA I3 standards. We're looking at about 90% accuracy with the board, which is a national average. So what we're doing is offering a grant for GIS as well. So there's a GIS grant, has the same parameters, 90-10, and every one of these counties has to have that, because without the proper mapping in the GIS locations or the geospatial routing for the cell phones and the locations of those through those maps, you can't have 911. So you've got to have that mapping component. So they're running concurrent. So we've got money for GIS, we've got money for next generation 911. We have already worked with the Sheriff's Department, and Joe has been involved in most every one of these conversations. I've invited him, knowing the dynamic here, because I knew you guys were the biggest population in Dent County, and you guys are also going to want to be part of what's going on. He needs a PSAP here that actually can locate everything and do the things that we're talking about. So Dent and Shannon and all those counties, we've had meetings. We met down in Van Buren with every one of these counties not too long ago, had a real nice meeting, signed a tentative MOU. So all the county commissioners signed and said, yes, we want to see more. We want to be able to do this. We want to bring 911 to our citizens. It's the right thing to do. And right now is probably the best time in our country's history where it's going to be able to be funded. These are not cheap systems. And they're not systems that most counties can go out and do it. A lot of people are saying, why are these your priority counties? I can tell you why. You can drive through any one of these counties, and it's a stark contrast to what you're driving through up north. The industry, the revenues, and everything else, these are Mark Twain National Forest regions. If they could have done 911 20 years ago, they'd have done it. If they had the money to do it, they would have done it. These are the primary regions. These are the ones that we are focusing on. So, like I said, the county commissioners have all signed an MOU. We are at the point in this process right now where I think Dent County is one of the last ones on the GIS side, and you guys are going to work this out as far as getting that. We've met before.
We don't have city on our GIS though.
Okay, and
we have data points, but we don't really have addresses because they weren't involved. So I just have county.
okay.
So I don't know how that's going to work.
Well, that's going to work through Brian, and watch me pass this ball. That's going to work through Brian, and he's going to work with your city folks, whoever does your mapping in your city. And SDR will have the ability when you do that, and I'm not speaking out of turn, they're going to have the ability to map the city as well as the county and bring that information towards it's transferable into the city PD. So that lane will work. Like I said, the MOU is signed. Where we're at in the process is, number one, we've got all the GIS information, and they are working towards getting grants and applying for grants on that side of the house with all of these counties. We've got 3 companies that provide both call handling and the virtual EZNet consolidation piece. We've got 1 quote from one of those counties. We are still waiting, or one of those companies, we're still waiting on 2 more. Once we get those, we will probably have that region meet again. I will let you guys know. I will let you know like we have. And we'll all sit down, we'll all talk about what we're doing. What we want to do is make sure that, number one, these are tax dollars. Everybody in this room, including myself, wants to be a good steward of how this money's spent. So we want to make sure that the quotes that we're looking at provide the services we're asking for, but they're also reasonable, and we can afford them for the first 5 years, because we are funding the first 5 years out. Because normally you get these systems and they have a 1 year cost, and then the maintenance is free for a year, and then you've got 4 years worth of maintenance going forward. We're funding the 5 years maintenance out. The other piece of that with these vendors and what we're looking at is trying to ensure that that 5 year cost of ownership, once that 6th year hits, that Dent County, Shannon County, Oregon, Ripley, all of those counties, are going to be able to sustain that through some kind of a funding mechanism, or however you guys do that afterwards. And one of the reasons why I know that the Salem City has to have some skin in this game is because you're going to be working in conjunction with Dent County on the county side. In 6 years, there's gonna have to be a funding mechanism that, and we do not get involved in politics, you know, Brian and I, we don't do any of that, but there will have to be some kind of an agreement on who pays this amount in 6 years. You know, what is the city's portion, what is the county's portion? However you guys decide to do that, or whatever that split is, that's up to you guys. What we are doing is making sure, because we already kind of have an idea of what dollar amounts in 6 years are gonna be palatable and able to be sustained, because we don't wanna come in and say, okay, in 6 years, your next year's maintenance is gonna be $500,000. That is unattainable, and I've said that to both the board, I've said that as far up as close to everybody I can think of in the state of Missouri. These counties are gonna have to be well under that $100,000 figure, I think, to be able to do that. You know, to be able to sustain that in 5 years and continue to do that, because the right thing to do is to have it, your saving lives. What it all boils down to is the ability to save a life. I have a daughter that lives down here. I want somebody to find her if she's on the Current River. I want somebody to find her if she's out behind Walmart and somebody's doing something. I just want that ability. So I'm a little passionate about this county, and that's why I started with Bob and Joe. And they were more than willing to help me go through the other counties. That was a lot that I just shotgunned on this group. What kind of questions can Brian and I answer for you?
So you said this will be a grant that you guys are applying for.
Mhm.
What kind of time frame are you guys looking at here for this project?
So we're trying to move pretty quick, because some of this money comes from, it's all ARPA dollars. Some of it comes from a couple of different pots and areas. And if you guys know state government, you know state government wants to grab whatever they can grab. So we need to have this money allocated as soon as possible. The time frame we're looking at, we've got a big conference for the 911 world in St. Louis called the Missouri Public Safety Communications Conference. We have a board meeting at that conference. Our goal is to try and have all of our quotes from our vendors for this region at least at that point in time, and have those grants filled out and reviewed. Brian and I, with the help of Mission Critical Partners, are going to do the one big grant for GIS and NextGen for this Mark Twain region. So as soon as we can get those quotes, we're gonna try and get that grant in and get that funded. On a realistic time frame, I'm gonna throw out longer than that. I think legitimately, we're probably looking end of March. I think by the end of March,
Yeah,
we will probably know what direction we're gonna be able to head with the quotes that we have and everything else. Our goal is to have that approved and the grant filled out by March 3rd at the conference.
Yeah.
That's gonna be rough. But
our
we have
board-
challenged our vendors to do
I
that.
say our board meets monthly, so I would not foresee it getting approved at the March meeting. Ideally, all the ducks are in a row. We've had conversations with everybody and caught everybody up to speed like we are here. And everybody's in agreement to move forward in a particular direction. And then once that's done, the grant's in, the approval process is pretty quick, so maybe by the April meeting. That's an advanced timeline, it's a quick timeline, don't get me wrong, but we wanna get it done as quick as possible, honestly, and get that process rolling, because the project's gonna take longer than that. So as far as I heard a gentleman, speaking about the Gantt charts earlier, it's like there'll be a lot of Gantt charts tied to the project and the implementation of that, so.
And along those lines, as far as how quickly that's moving and how fast that's moving, I've said this to most all the sheriffs, the presiding commissioners, now the city fathers and the police chiefs that are involved in this, because actually Ripley County Donovan Police Department is the one that's actually running that whole charge, so, in their city council. Those are all things that I've tried to let everybody know, you guys are the priority. This is a grant that they're not gonna look at. I know in the past, everybody's done a whole lot of work and then looked at it and said, we still gotta come up with 50%, or we got denied, or anything like that. the chance of this grant ever getting denied, once we get the grant in, is pretty much slim to none.
The viewers
It's,
got nice
it's,
dead
it's the
body.
one goal coming down the street from Mike Parsons to us that says, get this done. So that's what we're trying to do. You know, that's, I wish I could give you an exact time frame. I wish I'd have had it 3 or 4 weeks ago. I wish we'd have been done and coming in here and doing this a couple weeks back, but.
Well, and to clarify on that too, this is not something we started a month ago. We started this April of last year.
Yeah, I've been,
And we've just now got to the point where we've got information worthy enough to bring forward to everybody. We actually had a meeting scheduled in January, but was canceled for weather. But, so I mean, this has been a project that's almost a year to get to this point.
And I'll add also, as we were planning our current budget, you may remember, we added this into the CIP. It was the Enhanced 911 is what it was called there. It's not the exact name, but this is the program
Okay.
that we were planning for.
And, you know, it sounds like what they have some sort of agreement with the county on the cost down the road.
So going forward, what's gonna happen is the county, so the county commissioners in all these counties are the ones that are actually the guiding, wherever the primary PSAP is located, and down in these counties, that resides within the sheriff's department. That's just by the nature of what the counties have done. So they're the primary PSAP, so they were the ones that had to be sure and sign MOUs and make sure that they wanted their county to be part of that. Understanding that, like the city of Doniphan, that ball got passed to them pretty quick, knowing, I used to dispatch here years ago when I lived here, so knowing that there was a dispatch center in Salem, and that dispatch center is not going anywhere. You guys wanna keep it. That had to be a conversation with Joe, saying this is how we're going to do this. You're gonna be what we call a secondary PSAP, you're still gonna get all that information transferred to you. And those costs in 6 years do have something to do with how you guys maintain that going forward through whatever vendor provides that service. I know there's vendors out there, and I'm gonna rattle off a few. There's a company called Atos, AT&T, and Digital. There's more of those companies out there. We're getting 3 good quotes to do due diligence. We also wanna make sure that 6-year cost isn't something that's gonna hurt you guys, because it's gotta be sustainable.
And is there something that you need from the city as far as like a letter of support for the grant application, or?
That would be nice. Yes, when we go to write the grant, if you guys would say we are in support with the county of moving forward with next generation 911 implementation, and we can work on that wording or figure that out and, you know, wordsmith it with Joe or you guys or whatever, but yes, that just makes that grant look that much better, because our board of directors, one of the big questions in the beginning, and a hurdle I've had to overcome in conversations with all these counties, is how are they gonna pay for this in 6 years after we're done funding this for 5 years, the sustainability aspect. It's gonna look much better when we do the grant up front, and you have a letter of recommendation saying, we wanna get in this, we're gonna work together with our county, and we're gonna continue, we think this is a good project, so. That was a long way around saying, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seems like you want that as well as us to, possibly say that, you know, we would like to join up with this Mark Twain,
Yeah.
you know, this virtual,
Yep,
consolidation as well, beyond supporting the county and everything in this. The only other question I have is just out of curiosity. You said 7 in Missouri do not have 911, and those all located in the Mark Twain region?
So how that-
That's how I understood it.
So how that worked, there was one extra, there was an exception, but we've gotten that taken care of. So it was Shannon, Oregon, Ripley, Carter, Wayne, and Bollinger did not have 911. Now Reynolds and Iron, you think, well, how did Reynolds and Iron do it? Well, they did it through the Tom Sauk Dam collapse, and Alan Wells being pretty astute with grants and stuff like that, brought that into his center in St. Francis County and was able to assume those 2 counties as far as a consolidation piece with his. So those counties I just said are down here in that region. Now Madison County is also part of this group. They needed funding, they have 911, they have what they call enhanced phase 2. You guys are probably enhanced phase 1 in Dent County right now. But they are part of that grant as well. So those counties I just named, and then Clark County, way up here on the Iowa-Illinois border, they did not go the last grant round when we did a big pull up there, because we've had counties up in this region that were the same as the ones down here. And they are joining this grant round actually. Some of them joined last grant round, Putnam and Scotland. Scotland. They joined the group up north. Clark County is joining this grant round, And that's a 21 county region up there that is actually doing the same thing we're looking at doing in this region. There are 6 regions with Texas, Wright, Douglas, Ozark, and Howell. Like I said, Crawford, Marys, Phelps, Pulaski, possibly Laclede, coming into that group. So they're organically forming because these PSAPs want to work together, and if something happens in their county, they want to have another county as a rollover PSAP that says, okay, you know, you've got 2 PSAPs in your county, and they are located 500 yards apart. And if something would happen to those 2 PSAPs, you've got to have a 911 going forward is going to dictate that someone still is able to answer a 911 call in that county. And these systems will let that happen. They'll still be able to answer your call to your location and the whole 9 yards from another county within that virtually consolidated region.
Any other questions from the board or any other discussions? All right, well, thank you, Scott and Brian.
Guys, thanks.
Thanks for having us sit down.
Yep. How are you, man? Long time no see.
Next on our agenda is, fiscal year 2023 audit from Krista DeLuca.
So, apologies, I didn't catch you guys before you did your agenda approval. We got an email from Kristen this afternoon saying she would not be here.
So we will,
Apologies, but I didn't catch you before.
so we will skip that and move on to new and miscellaneous business. First, we have resolution number 4-2024.
Resolution number 4-2024, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the city of Salem, Missouri and Pitney Bowes.
Question about with the mayor not here.
Oh, to sign the agreement.
Or we would do a vote anyway.
You want to discuss this?
Stacy, do you wanna talk about this one?
Well, we currently have a postage machine through Pitney Bowes, but we pay a monthly lease on it. It does expire this month, so we will have to renew this lease to continue with a postage machine. I think we get, discount 3 cents per item by using their machine. I did, kinda look to see what other options we have, and, this would be our best route is to continue this, because if we went through, there's another option we could've went through, but then it's gonna cost, it will be cheaper, but it would take staff a lot more time, cause then you have to separate each envelope by weight, and then you have to fill out a certain report to turn into the post office, and it was gonna, I think this would be our best route to continue as we are now.
Any questions or discussion from the board? Seeing none, we have a motion for approval of resolution number 4-2024.
I would move to approve resolution number 4-2024.
With a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Alderwoman Cisco,
Yes.
Alderman Whalen,
Yes.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Next on our agenda is the public comment policy. This was first presented back in November, but we tabled it due to we had some legal questions. We ran those by Attorney Weber and modified this policy. This would give the opportunity to provide a platform for citizens to express their views and concerns to the board. With this policy, they don't have to sign up to be on the agenda the Wednesday before the meeting, so this makes it a little easier for them to address the board. The public comment would be scheduled toward the beginning of the regular board meetings and would be allocated 3 minutes each. And at that point, the board have, based upon their discretion, can respond to them. And if there's any follow-up that's needed, that'll be based upon the city administrator to coordinate that. Is there any questions or any discussion on this public comment policy?
No, I think it's a good thing. I think we have a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of other, after looking at a lot of other cities and, how they run their meetings, this kind of comports with what they do as well. I think it's a pretty solid policy we've been working on for what? 5 months or so, I move to approve the public comment policy.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Alderman Williams,
Yes.
Alderwoman Cisco,
Yes.
Alderman Whalen,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Moving on, to readings of bills. These are, the first readings, that's several bills, tonight. And we will start with, bill number 3589.
Bill number 3589, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Sally, do you wanna kinda explain this in five, the feature bills that we've been reading?
So you'll notice these were covered with one staff summary in your agenda, because these, in essence, these 11 bills create a new chapter within our codes, specifically for the non-smoking. And in recent past, meetings where we have made amendments to codes, we have done them a separate ordinance by section. And so this is following that same format, a separate ordinance by section. And I don't know if Attorney Weber wants to weigh in on why we do that. Do you wanna share that real quick?
Sure, it's important. State of Missouri is a real sensitive subject for all. And so while all of these ordinances are touching upon a kind of a common subject, it's important to break out the pieces within the proposed act, because there's parts of the act that may or may not be acceptable to the board. You might not approve it, so you have to split it out individually instead of trying to cram several subjects into this one ordinance. And then it gives you a chance to fairly discuss each and every piece instead of, for lack of a better way of putting it, pork barreling.
So, again, this is something that was brought up previously by Alderwoman Cisco as an interest or concern in our community. I know it is something that I believe even prior to bringing up this specific code, our park board had had some discussion. Certainly I know, with our park and rec director, Melissa, we had had conversation previously. So when it came up, and then of course, Mr. Moser, with director from the Denton County Health Center, reached out and sent us a model ordinance, and this is based on that model ordinance, with the exception, as I had discussed with some of you previously, with the exception of going into and regulating within individual businesses. So we left that to the businesses, and I felt like as a whole, our businesses have done a really good job of self-regulating. So these series of bills pertain to city property.
Thank you.
And, oh, one other thing, sorry, this did go before the Park and Rec Board as well, and they voted to recommend it to you all.
Okay.
I hand this back over to the mayor.
Hi, thank you. And thank you, my intro, yeah, so we're on bill number 3590. All right. We're done discussing this bill.
I would like to add, well, to give the mayor time to
Go ahead.
get ahead of, but, I am in favor of this bill. I think that it is going to allow our children at the parks, at activities that are outdoors, to have the ability to breathe in fresh, clean air. You'd be surprised how many people smoke on the field or as a coach on the bench. It's very surprising. So this is something that I've been very passionate about putting into place, but it also allows our business owners to have a little bit of leverage if it's something they do not want happening in front of their storefront or however. So I'm very excited to see this and hope that it passes through, just because my main concern is for the sporting events that are outdoors, for the safety and the healthiness of the children of the town.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you guys.
thank you, Kayla, for bringing this to the park board. I wanna thank the park board too, because they put a lot of hard work into making this no smoking ordinance, an issue. I mean, promoting more healthiness for all of our kids, but thank you and the park board for all the hard work that you did do, putting into this.
Yeah, the park board, it was very nice to hear Sally was, able to make it to that meeting, but, Carlos and the rest of the board was very strongly, pro for this bill to pass. They all had stories or incidences that, supported why they wanted the bill to pass, so it was a very good feeling to know that it wasn't just one or two, it was the whole board.
I have a dumb question. Okay. City streets and sidewalks, how does that play into this? Like, if it is city property, are the streets not city property?
They are technically.
So, so let's say people don't wanna smoke inside, but they're smoking on the city streets. Are we gonna get calls for that?
Well, I guess the first question to me that comes to mind, if we think about a situation such as a parade,
Mm-hmm,
okay? The event itself is taking place on city property.
mm-hmm.
However, in our downtown area, where most folks think of the parade happening, ownership of sidewalks
Yeah.
doesn't reside with the city.
I understand that.
So there's a little bit of,
Yeah, it's just a strange question I was thinking of while we were talking about this, cause like, I thought about there are some people that are gonna say that we're not going far enough, because most cities are going in.
and others will say we're going too far.
And some
Right,
are
I
going
get it.
to say we're going too far. I understand both sides of that equation. There's gonna be places where people are, cause most people think of restaurants, but most of these non-smoking bills are for inside of buildings and spaces where like, okay, let's say a mechanic shop or something, not that you should be, because there's gonna be flammable items there.
Okay, you'd be surprised.
You would be surprised, but like, because there is gonna be some non-smokers working in the same space as smokers smoking inside, so like, some people are gonna say, no, that's not where I'm getting it. I think this is a good first step. However, I'm still, like, when it comes to the city streets, because it's not just downtown. I understand downtown is one, but, a lot of people, especially during parades, gather on McCarthy. Those are very populated areas, very kid-populated areas. And I understand it's outside, this is gonna, you could get calls on this. Are we ready for that, do you think?
Why doesn't it say tobacco use?
Huh? Why does it say tobacco?
Why doesn't it say tobacco use?
I think it was something we had to be very specific about.
Tobacco use could be
Tobacco
spitting.
use could be spitting, it could be, the vapes now, it had to be very specific on our wording with that, right? If I'm remembering correctly?
Well, I remember
Clean
there
air
was discussion
policy.
with the park board
Mhm.
about that. And part of it is, well, there are certainly, and I don't wanna get too much in the weeds here, but while there are certainly anti-tobacco campaigns, especially involving youth, this is more about what you're going to take in, ingest, inhale in the proximity of someone. And that's not gonna be the case with chewing tobacco, and products of that kind. So this has smoking, if you read into the definitions, vaping's included, so it's those types of things. And again, I mean, it is up to you all. If you want something different, then I would need direction from.
I honestly think that, yes, we're going to get calls. It just as anything else.
Right.
We're going to have 50% that say, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, and we're going to have 50% that's really super annoyed at the end of the day. And I think at the end of the day, we make the right decision that we're okay with, and I truly believe and stand behind our police department to make the right call. If we're at a parade and somebody's like, oh, Greg Parker is just smoking cigarette after cigarette and it's super annoying, I think our police department's going to say, hey, Miss Sally, do you want to relocate, or Greg, do you mind to put that out? I don't think that it's gonna blow into them getting a
Yeah,
fine or whichever. This is, you know, specifically.
Just a weird
to-
question.
Absolutely, and it was brought up actually at the Parks and Rec
I think the
meeting.
biggest part of this is going to be kind of an education piece. I really do.
Yes.
To add to that, one of the bigger considerations with this, and this is just kind of for everyone, is that with the recent legalization of marijuana, not everybody wants to be exposed to that. And marijuana or THC intake can be done either through the plant, through vaping devices, things of that nature. And so that is another concern of why it covers the smoking and vaping. Because even though it's not legal in public to be out in a public place smoking marijuana, unless someone has a court of some sort, it doesn't restrict vaping pens, because, I mean, you would have to be able to do a chemical analysis on the spot to see what was in that vape pen, before you could take any type of enforcement action. And so what this does is this blankets that, in the sense that it would prevent any type of vaping, any type of smoking. Somebody could put marijuana in a corncob pipe, you know? So what that does is it protects people from the unwanted effects of secondary high or something like that.
I think in general, the main focus is trying to protect our kids.
Yeah.
I think that's the main concern right here, is trying to protect our kids and trying to promote a healthy environment for them. I mean, it's nothing to do with a tax or anything like that on anybody that does smoke or anything like that or use tobacco. It's just a big protection of our children. Huh? You can't hear me? Huh? Can you hear me now? The main focus, Debbie, is to protect our kids. Okay?
I heard that part.
Okay. We're gonna move you up in the front row. I got a deep voice, so. Yeah, and without our mic like we
No,
have,
it was brought up at the Parks and Rec meeting as
without
well.
our
and it was
mic
a
like
very
we have in
good
council
question.
chambers, where I can just lean forward, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
This is the first reading discussion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is just introduction, so there are 11 separate bills for the entire body of it.
All right, is there any other discussion on this? Moving right along to bill number 3590.
Bill number 3590, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Any discussion? All right, just checking. Bill number 3591.
Bill number 3591, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Bill number 3592.
Bill number 3592, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on the city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
At any time, the board can stop me if you need to for discussion. Bill number 3593.
Bill number 3593, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Bill number 3594.
Bill number 3594, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on the city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Bill number 3595.
Bill number 3595, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Bill number 3596.
Bill number 3596, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Bill number 3597.
Bill number 3597, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Bill number 3598.
Bill number 3598, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
And bill number 3599.
Bill number 3599, an ordinance adding provisions prohibiting smoking on city properties and specifically in public parks to the codes of the city of Salem, Missouri.
Next.
hear me saying that in your sleep.
I know.
Next up is the second reading of bills, starting off with bill number 3581.
Bill number 3581, an ordinance amending the utility committee definition for the city of Salem, Missouri.
Okay, so this ordinance, of course, the second reading, this was actually reviewed by the utility committee back in December. And this updates the definition about the utility committee itself and what they do. And so specifically, there was language struck from the definition for the committee related to street maintenance. So. And the utility committee, of course, did recommend approval.
Do I have a motion for bill number 3581?
I'll move to approve bill number 3581.
I'll second.
There's no discussion, I will call for the vote. Alderman Bullard,
Yes.
Alderwoman Cisco,
Yes.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
and Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Next up is bill number 3582.
Bill number 3582, an ordinance amending the amounts of utility deposits for the city of Salem, Missouri.
Okay, so this ordinance also was reviewed by the utility committee. This changes our deposits for utility, new accounts for utilities, from a flat fee as we currently have. So a residential customer coming in to set up a new utility account would pay a total of $200 as a deposit. That includes your electric, your water, and your sewer, as well as trash doesn't have a deposit, does it? Anyway, but that gets you, that's your entire amount. So this changes it instead to a 1/12 the amount of that utility for the past year at that physical address. So that it starts addressing usages that occur at a specific structure, at a specific building. There are, excuse me, what's before you is the standard change to utility deposits. And I of course did not put page numbers in, forgive me. So here's the actual language for this. So this changes, so we have provisions in here for new construction. So the standard existing for residential and commercial will be the 1/12, as I mentioned, average for the service address for the new account based on the most recent 12 months actual utility bills. New construction that do not have a history shall be equal to 1 month average for all utility accounts in the appropriate classifications, residential or commercial. And then for calculations of deposits for new commercial accounts, the top usage accounts shall not be included in the calculation. And what we mean by that is our highest usage, kind of industrial usage, which is considered commercial in our utilities, would not be included in that calculation, because it would unfairly sway those numbers too high. And then, let's see, for new accounts that qualify for the large industrial user, electric rate, or commercial manufacturing rate, again, we'd use the monthly average for the most recent 12 months for accounts in that category. So, and then we left the multiple utility accounts at the 500 deposit. So those are folks who do a lot of home flipping, that kind of thing, and might have utilities on at multiple locations for that purpose, not actually residing in those facilities. Again, this is the second reading, so it's the second time it's been before you all. It was voted on to recommend by the utility committee at their December meeting.
One of the things in the project description facts at the beginning is, one of the reasons we brought this up was because we were seeing some walkouts that had, $400 or $500 on their bill, and the deposit is supposed to cover that. If they do walk out, some people walk out, don't tell us, all that kind of stuff. We were seeing those kind of accounts, and this is to kind of match what they were using.
Right.
Because it was just not adding up. The city was taking a hit for that.
And I'm trying to remember, does it say in the staff summary, forgive me, when that bill, they were set in 2009.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously things have changed since then, so.
Yeah.
Is it really common for people before they purchase a home or rent a home to call and see what the deposit is before? Cause this may be a good idea to send letters out to our realtors, letting them know that this is a policy or
I
something.
don't know that I think it's common. I mean, it does happen occasionally, but I don't think it's
I
common.
think we just had such a common set rate of $200 for
Right.
so long. I don't think it's a bad idea to send, depending on what, the way the board votes on this, to send a letter out to realtors even, just letting them know, like, heads up,
Gotcha.
this may be something your buyers or sellers may look into.
Should be aware of.
Yes,
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's only for new accounts, we're not going to change
Right.
whatever people have done already, so.
right, but a lot of people, when they buy, are moving in from out of town or whichever. Cause a lot of people are either moving to the city or moving completely in from out of state.
Sure.
I'm seeing a lot of that.
Any other discussion?
I move to approve the utility deposit ordinance, shifting from flat deposit amount to an average for the past 12 months, per new service address.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Alderman Williams,
Yes.
Alderman Whalen,
Yes.
Alderwoman Cisco,
Yes,
and Alderman Bullard.
Yes.
Next up is bill number 3583.
Bill number 3583, an ordinance amending portions of the housing violations codes for the city of Salem, Missouri.
This and the next bill, so 3583 and 3584, are both basically housekeeping amendments. So consolidating the language in both sections of code. And currently what's in our code, I think you referenced at least 3 different titles that are all supposed to be the same thing. So we have code officer, we have, building, I can't remember exactly what it says, but we had code officer, we had building inspector, and we had one other kind of mix of those. And so this is consolidating it to the building inspector dealing with housing codes and violations. So that's what both of these sections, are doing, is cleaning up language.
I'll open it up for discussion if there's any. This time, do I have a motion for bill number 3583?
I move to approve bill number 3583.
I'll second.
If there's no further discussion, I will call for the vote. Alderman Bullard.
Yes.
Alderwoman Cisco.
Yes,
Alderman Whalen,
Yes.
and Alderman Williams.
Yes.
Next up is bill number 3584.
Bill number 3584, an ordinance amending portions of the housing violation codes for the city of Salem, Missouri.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 3584, or sorry, bill number 3584.
No, second.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Alderwoman Cisco.
Yes,
Alderman Bullard.
Yes.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
and Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Next up is bill number 3587.
Bill number 3587, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the city of Salem, Missouri, beginning July 1, 2023, and appropriating funds pursuant thereto.
This time, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion for bill number 3587?
I move to approve bill number 3587.
Second.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Alderman Bullard.
Yes.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
Alderwoman Cisco,
yes,
and Alderman Whalen.
Yes.
Next up is reports of city officials, boards, and committees. Ms. Bullard, you go first.
Okay, I do have several items to share with you all this evening. So first of all, thank you for all of you on the board and our finance committee members for the budget priority session last Thursday. A lot of discussion discussion, a lot of good conversation that came out of that. I think it will be helpful as we move forward. I do want to reiterate, as I did at the beginning of that session, that was a brainstorming session to get together from all of you what top priorities are. That doesn't mean everything that was discussed will be funded or even worked into the plan of work, but it gives staff some direction on where you all would like to head. So we'll have more discussion on all of that as we move forward through the budgeting process. I do have a printout, forgive me, that's in your packet for all the budget priorities. So this, you'll see it's color coded this time. This is kind of the results of that session, Thursday evening. You'll see over here a number just to make it easy to reference. And those are messed up because it's sorted by rank right now. So you'll see the number one was of course the wastewater treatment plant. I'm not gonna go through all of these with you, but cause you can see them. All of these that scored 2 is because they scored the same number of priority votes. So you'll see we've got, what, 4 of them? And then we have several that scored number 3, so all the way down to here. The color coding, if it's green, that means it's in process or it's regulated by EPA or Missouri Department of Natural Resources. So everything in green throughout that list, it's already in process or it's mandated, okay? This kind of blue color, that's economic community development related. You'll see kind of where some of those things scored. Pedestrian improvements, sidewalks, crosswalks, and trails are kind of this peach color. Transportation and street related items are the yellow. And then housing and property related items are in the gray. Now there's others in white that didn't, they're a little more all over the place. I could probably categorize a little more, but I think those captured the largest things that, these are all similar. So just a quick look down there, and like I said, this is available in the packet. You can look at, I do have it on a spreadsheet, not with me this evening, but we could then start sorting by category and start kind of looking at this a few different ways. Like I said, I do appreciate all of you, your time Thursday, because this becomes very helpful as we start planning the budget moving forward. Okay, so there's that. The Welcome Home program. So we applied for and were granted an extension on that program. So I just heard this week, so yesterday, that we were granted that extension. We are reducing the total scope of the program, and this has been negotiations back and forth with Federal Home Loan Bank. It was originally 25 homes, we're reducing that down to 15. We still have the same subcategories: veterans, special needs, low income, and very low income. So we still have those categories. And we actually have our next round of houses. We have 4 houses that are going out for bid. The walkthrough with contractors will happen on the 23rd, so not this Friday, but next Friday, with those bid openings being on March 8th. So hopefully we'll get those houses all underway. Let's see. On the old City Hall. So as we've talked just briefly in past meetings, so with the water leaks that occurred at that building, I had mentioned previously that there was some extensive damage that was done. Now, I think most of you on the board are aware, that damage doesn't mean it was just to pipes. And so if it was just pipes, we'd have everything up and going. As it is, I have now 3 quotes from plumbers to come in to replace flush valves on urinals that were busted, things of that nature, do some other plumbing work. We have talked about potentially doing some more replacements of some of the plumbing fixtures just because of the age of what's in the building, and so do it all at once. So I'll be reviewing those tomorrow. Thursday, I have a flooring company coming in to look at the stage and to give us a quote on that. So, like I said, things are in process. But yeah, it's not gonna be all city crews doing all the work because flooring, a lot of this stuff is more intense and it's not what our folks are trained to do or what they do every day. So, as I continue to get information pulled together, I'll update all of you on that as it moves forward. Let's see, so another item, so we have talked about, most of us, Alderman Whalen, you haven't been part of this conversation yet, but some of you we've talked about even prior to me taking this position. I had mentioned Laserfish and digital, getting documents and records for the city scanned and more easily available. So we have a walkthrough with a company called HITS. So HITS does document scanning and document handling. They're out of St. Louis. They're actually recommended by the kind of local Laserfish reps. What they do, so let me back up. We've been talking with Laserfish. We've got quotes for them. We plan to put in the cost of implementing the Laserfish program with this next budget year. That's the intent, assuming it makes its way through the budget process. HITS is coming down this Friday to do a walkthrough with us of our files and our records to kind of give us a quote about how that should be broken up. You know, how much a year do we think is realistic, and how's the best way to kind of tackle this, with the intent that we will be applying, and we've talked about this before, for a grant this year to help cover the cost, especially of HITS, coming and assisting us with the scanning in of all of these documents. So that grant is due March 1st. So that's our goal. So a lot happening in that over the next few weeks. We had, I think, a pretty good conversation with them last week, myself and Tammy and Stacy, about, you know, kind of what we need to do and how they can assist us with kind of phasing that program in. So again, it wouldn't have all of our records all done in 1 year, but it would be a phased approach so that we can at least start implementing that. Let's see, okay, downtown project. Project bids, they were supposed to open tomorrow. Our engineer has had some questions kind of last minute come from a few contractors about the project. So bids on that will open this Friday. So that'll be before you, probably at the next Aldermen meeting. And then a quick reminder, offices are closed Monday for President's Day. So I think that's all I have for now.
Any update on the insurance claim for the Old City Hall?
Not yet.
Not currently, we don't have it.
And then, one other question, that was in our consent agenda was the animal control reports. Seeing where we transferred 6 dogs to St. James. Have we heard back from DCAWS on the contract that
No.
we sent to them or anything?
No response.
Is this something we may want to try again?
When
or-
we have reached out, we've been told, you know, you probably won't get a response. I mean, I can certainly try again.
I think it's probably worth trying again. Yeah. That's all I have.
The only thing I have for you, Sally, is, when the HITS, comes down to do the walkthrough, see if if they can do with them scanning in, like our cemetery documents.
They can't do handwritten.
They can't do handwritten.
No, that's one drawback. And, I mean, they could scan them, but it wouldn't do any good because they wouldn't be searchable. It doesn't
Yeah.
recognize handwriting.
I just got a lot of concern of losing some of that old.
Right. Now, do you wanna talk about what you have Wanda working on?
Yeah, I currently have, Wanda helps me 2 days a week, and she is working on getting all the cemetery stuff in an Excel sheet.
Okay.
There's no way that I can scan the current book that we have. It
Yeah.
goes back to the late 1800s.
Yeah.
They're all handwritten, and it's a bound book that's about this thick, and we would destroy it,
Yeah.
trying to take it apart.
And deciphering it with human eyes is a bit tough. I can only imagine what a.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I'm
text
just, my
recognition
concern lies with preserving those records.
Right, and I do have a company that I started to look into having those preserved. I have a book older than the big book that we rarely touch, only in, cases where somebody's looking back farther, that needs to be preserved, but like I said, we only touch that one when absolutely necessary.
Okay.
But it's just a process.
Okay.
Are we currently still handwriting this? No, okay, good. I was just making sure. Making sure we're correcting history. Sally, I wanna thank you for, that, budget line out. That looks awesome. It's going to be very helpful when it comes to, budget time. So I'm very excited. I apologize I wasn't able to be there, schedule conflicts and weather rescheduling. So, I do wanna thank you, and I wanna thank Sean, for filling in for me, for being there, and then everybody that was able to make it. But, I think that This, just from overlooking it, in the agenda is going to make things so much easier when it comes time to planning the budget for, the next year.
I can say, and granted, this is our first year to do this, so
Absolutely.
it's new, it's changed. But I know from my perspective, it's so much easier to start fleshing out that budget when I know what those priorities are. It may not mean that we add a bunch of extra programs and stuff to the budget, but we know that the money we do have, that we're probably already spending on things, hey, you know what, this is a focus, we can work this in, so, very helpful.
I just like it because you can, you look at bus transportation account, I just put some yellow and it's right in the middle, but it's just, you can look at that and just break it down even. It's easier than saying, hey, Donnie, what does the water department need?
Right.
And then they come to us with a whole bunch of stuff they need, because everybody needs something in each department. So it's great that department heads are gonna be involved, and, we all have a say, from the committee to the board to the departments. It's just overall, very organized, and I think that it's gonna be very helpful.
Anything else? All right, next up is my report, which I don't have a lot to report on as much as I do in light of our Director of Public Works position being open, and we have Chief Chase serving as temporary. Report. If you'd like to go ahead and give that, Joe, and then any of our superintendents is with us here tonight, to kind of help alleviate some of that work for you.
Yeah, and what I'm gonna do is, I talked to you guys earlier, and we can try and take as much of this off of you as I can. Any place I miss, or if there's a question about something, just feel free to chime in, because I don't.
Yeah, because the whole light in bringing you guys in is to kind of give the public a little bit more perspective of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, which all of us don't ever see, so.
Okay, so we'll start with, streets, and this is just kind of as much of anything as a public announcement. We'll be repairing, a culvert and a drop at, on Rollo Road, at the intersection of MacArthur and Rollo Road. So there's shutdowns, there'll be shutdown to any heavy truck traffic. A certain portion of Rollo Road will be closed completely. MoDOT is working with us. They put up a illuminated sign north on 72 to notify oncoming traffic that part of the highway will be shut down to anything other than just, passenger vehicles.
Okay.
So that's coming tomorrow. We expect that we should have that opened up, repaired, and done, probably maybe by 2, give or take.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, and with the back truck, we think that's gonna make that job a whole lot faster, because it's gonna be a complete repair. Some of the things that have been accomplished, since the last Aldermen meeting, we completed a yard repair north. This is streets, on North 19. They performed ditch cleanouts on the south side of town, specifically Jackson, Roosevelt, and Bergman. I met with Davey from the streets, and we went over the Frisco Trailhead markers. There's some signage that's wanting to be put in through tourism, and some concerned individuals from the community. That project's kind of been lingering for a few months. We've got that set. Dig Right was called for the locates, so that we can do, because there's some minor excavation there. We expect to see this project completed by Wednesday, Thursday of next week. So that takes that out completely. Cemetery, they did cleanups for leaves and some grave leveling. There was some graves that had sunk. If you don't put your casket in the vault, then the compression of the ground will cause some graves to sink down. So they level that off so it has a nice appearance and doesn't create trip hazards, things of that nature. Electric spent a considerable amount of time in the 1200 block of South MacArthur. There was a DWI related accident that completely took out a pole. They were on scene from about 1 o'clock until almost 6 o'clock or 6:30 that night, doing a repair. It was complete removal. The feeder lines, crossbars, everything had to be replaced from the ground up. So they did a good job on getting that done. We had the street shut down for a pretty good amount of time. They did some maintenance activities further south on HH, received the new AMI antennas for the water tower. In conjunction with that, we we've got what's called the rocket antenna. We got that replaced, that's since the last meeting, I think. So, only been doing this for a week and a half, so. I think it was since before the last meeting. So anyways, that was repaired. We got a tighter angling on that, so we have a better signal strength, better reception, should make for faster, accurate reads. Met with the county commissioners on Thursday of last week, covered the electric install for the courthouse. Josh from the city had devised a plan. He put this in place a year ago, kind of got lost in the shuffle. We brought it back to the forefront, presented to all three commissioners, and it presents a considerable cost savings. And from the conversation I had today, that looks like that's going to be the direction that the county is moving with that update. So, kind of a shout out for him for doing a very good job. I mean, when we look at the cost savings, the top end is 45,000. And this is just ballpark, not tight figures, but somewhere in the 5 to 7 range. So
It's kind of nice to get it out there instead of just sitting on it.
yeah, well, and I mean, it saves the county a lot of money. Yeah. Also on streets, the foundation at the intersection of 2nd Street, that project's been lingering for a considerable amount of time. It is currently removed and to grade. Streets is gonna go over on Thursday. They're gonna put down a little bit of seed, straw that to try and contain erosion so that there's nothing, because if you go further to the north, the neighbors downhill from that property, we don't wanna be pushing dirt onto them. So it's just gonna kind of try and help keep that contained.
Chief, do you wanna share why that property, why we're doing that cleanup on that property?
Sure, and so that property, this was, okay, so this project's over a year old. It wasn't addressed, and so the reason for that is because the lot size is not sufficient to build another house on. And so that property was deeded over to the city, given to the city, because.
Through the voluntary demolition.
Yeah, through voluntary demolition. And, but you couldn't do anything with it as long as the foundation was there. The old foundation was removed. There was a 15-foot cistern also on the property that's been filled and compacted, so there's no issues for it to sink out.
Okay.
And then the other side of that is now that that property's cleaned up, it's available to be put up for bid, and we have the neighbor right next door is interested in being the first in line to purchase that property. So it takes it off the city's plate completely. The mechanics department performed it, and so his notes were a little bit tougher to read. At least 6 oil changes and services on city vehicles. Did a repair on a construction truck for an auxiliary cooler. And we did equipment assessments on the majority of the vehicles inside the city for vehicles that will be going out to Purple Wave for auction. And then the other part of that is we're looking at the leases on the backhoes. We're gonna try and determine, the city owns 2, one is still on lease. Moving forward, we're gonna look at which ones, or how we present for capital improvements on equipment, and keep those capital improvement requests pretty even, so that one department's not so high above the others, or, you know, trying to keep a balanced amounts for the requests. Construction, they completed the salt bin repairs at the street department, and that doesn't seem like a lot until you consider the size of the building. There were rafter repairs, back wall repairs, roof repairs, sidewall repairs, and so the repairs that were on that were extensive. Lloyd and his crew got in, they made that a priority, and they buttoned that up. The first of them finished up Friday, I believe, and they had just a little bit on Monday. They went from there to the council chambers. They've stripped all the overhead stuff in the council chambers that is not necessary. There was some black iron pipe and old heater, things of that nature. They've pulled all of the paneling on the west side of the council chambers. Anything that was exposed to water. In the process of moving all the way around, they're gonna strip it out completely. Moved all the lights up, moved all the speakers up, and everything that was in there has been cleaned out. They're planning on working on that again tomorrow. See, sewer and water, they had some main breaks, and this one, Gibbs and Carty, and then I think Maple and Roosevelt, is that right? I knew there was one over there off of, I thought it was Maple and Roosevelt, I'm not sure if that was the same one or not, but,
Had one at Maple and Roosevelt, had one. Oh, I had 4 of them.
okay. So there were several
Main bridge.
that were in repaired again, the back
And
truck.
one at the, actually, it was at the, Parks and Rec building, and wasn't a big one, had been leaking for a little bit there.
Okay, is that over off Third and Grand area? Okay. Okay, and so, there was, the DNR inspection, what was that, Donnie, specifically?
No, that was for the collection system, it was just, pretty much able to seam on the collection system operation maintenance. That was a couple weeks ago there.
Okay, and so we did pass that.
DNR sent me a letter over it.
Okay.
Give
So-
you guys kudos.
Yeah, good job for those guys for getting that done. They attended training, and then tomorrow we'll be working, with Brent's crews, to get that job done as quickly as possible. The other part too is we've been working with Josh and Donnie on some reviews of the phase 2 wastewater treatment updates. And so we'll be meeting with Sally and, Archer Elgin on Tuesday of next week to go over those.
Anyway, you can probably see if Josh can get maybe an update on the streetlights,
We're working on that.
on the order.
Okay.
On
like
the
boat,
order,
yeah.
yeah, the order that they purchased.
Alright, so the problem you have there is we've got streetlights that were put in, phased in over a long period of time, so they're not all the same, so coming up with bulbs for all of them. And so what we don't want is we don't want 4th Street to look like a shallow attempt at Christmas with pink lights, white lights, yellow lights, you know.
Sunday, we're trying to save money.
Yeah, so, well, I mean,
Well, I know you will do a better job, we really do.
yeah. Any other questions?
I have a residence, Joe, and I'm glad Brent's here as well. It's 700 South MacArthur, and he is getting, it's across the street from Spring Creek Cafe. He's getting blocked in. His wife was late to work due to somebody not wanting to move their car until they finished their breakfast. And so the paint has faded. I don't know if repainting or putting up signage may help, but I understand this gentleman's grief. He actually just has settled to parking in Spring Creek until they're closed. Well, Spring Creek actually came and asked them to move off their parking lot, that he's not a paying customer. So it's like,
Okay, so the address he lives at 700 South MacArthur?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Like the problem's on Gibbs Street, right?
the problem is on Gibb Street, right across from his driveway. You'll see it, it's where they park.
Okay, is he the guy that lives, his driveway's on Gibbs?
Yes.
Okay, so I personally checked that, multiple mornings, and every morning that I've checked that, it has been open.
Yeah.
There's not been anybody blocking.
He said that you've checked in and that it's mainly the evening that's the issue. He's not
Okay.
able to get into his home. So he's having to park over there. Well, it didn't really bother him until they told him he's not a paying customer and he can't park in their parking lot. So, the wife was late recently due to,
Okay, I have my even guys.
it may have been
check
an
that.
appointment, not work, but I don't know if the painting, repainting, I don't know if we can put signage up.
It's
Something
been
to
an
help
issue
these people
over the
out.
years.
That's what he
It's
has
been an
said,
issue
and he said that we have done a really good job of asking people to move their cars. Police department's done a great job of driving by, checking in. He's just asking us if there's anything we could possibly do to keep people from blocking him in, or his wife from getting, I guess his wife is disabled, and so it's kinda harder for her to get around also. So it's easier for her to pull in her driveway and get in her home.
We have other remedies that we can apply to that situation if signage doesn't take the bill.
He said that he went in and personally asked somebody who he knew drove it, and they handed him a $5 bill and said he was a broken record, and tipped him for it.
Okay.
I was like, I would've put that towards his bill.
I'd like to find out who that was. Maybe we can find a better remedy. for that.
Yeah.
Parking meters.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Joe.
No, Melissa's not here. Maybe report on her behalf.
I don't mind to, I mean, all I know is basketball.
Alright.
Basketball's over, it was very successful. She did a very good job of planning games in, getting them all in before her skills and drills started on football. I don't know exactly how many she had on that, but I know it was several kids. I don't remember if she reported a number at the last Parks and Rec meeting. She may have. It was always more than what she's done previously, but basketball went very well. She did very good about finding refs, is very organized. I'm always pleased with the work that Melissa does with the Parks and Rec department. She's always looking in different avenues to make it better than the year before. Carlos is here. He is the president of the Parks and Rec committee, so they're always doing great things and improving. Other than that, that's all I have. They are looking at their budget, and I think in their budget, they're trying to look at different ways to redo the tennis court. Of course, that's not gonna be a this year, next year, or even next year. It's a very expensive fix, so they are looking at different ways, looking grants or work with the school potentially, hopefully, to help revamp that tennis court, because last year had a very successful tennis team, and it's becoming a little bit more of a popular sport. So Stan was there, and he was the old president of the board, but he even mentioned pickleball is becoming a very popular sport as well. And so making that, both tennis and pickleball potentially, or it's just a dream, it's a rework, it's trying to revamp and make the park better. So then we discussed, of course, the bill of the no smoking. And we're gonna have signages put up there once it's approved, or if it's approved, the next reading.
All right.
That's all I have.
Since you're multitasking, next up is your report.
That's me. I personally have nothing to report on.
God, after all that, you just reported.
I feel like there's something and I forgot, but at this moment, it's not in my notes, so.
She'll think of it before I get ready to.
To that, the issues that you reported to me, those were all taken care of too.
Oh, yes, thank
First
you so
Street
much.
And on Center and Pullman.
Perfect. Thank you for handling it. There was a water leak that I had messaged Chief about, and he got the street department water crew over there, fixed it instantly. And then there was a home that was very cluttered, and I was very surprisingly pleased with how quickly that was cleaned up. I got pictures from a resident, sent them to Chief, and I mean, in seconds, I got other pictures from the resident saying thank you. I'm like, that happened entirely too quick. So I think that our trash guy helped with a lot of that.
Yeah.
Was it you or?
Chief reached out to me, so
Yeah.
I got rid of the eyes.
Very quickly, very pleased with that. Other than that, I feel like I'm missing something, but obviously it's not very important, or.
Sure.
Yeah, carry on. If I remember, I'll come up. I'll speak.
All right, next up, Alderman Bullard, your report, sir.
Just have one thing to share, is an event coming up on March 5th by the Scenic Rivers Industries, also known as the Shelter Workshop, located on 601 South Walker. They'll be hosting an open house on March 5th from noon to 2, just to give people an opportunity to tour the facility, learn about what they do there, giving employment opportunities for people with disabilities. They do a lot of good quality work there with the birdhouses and the pill crush cups and the gun cleaning kits. And so they'll provide some hot dogs, chips, and drinks, and there will also be some raffle tickets and a 50/50 available. And that's all I have to report on.
Next up, Alderman Williams.
I have one city-related item. Our usually scheduled utility meeting for tomorrow is postponed. We have a few people that will be unable to make it due to it being Ash Wednesday, as well as it being Valentine's Day. We decided to postpone it for 1 week. We will have it, I believe it is the 21st at 6:15 here. So we are postponing it for 1 week. In non-city and community, more community-related things, the 100 Acre Wood guys did reach out to me for one thing. If anybody, with hotels filling up with a lot of teams coming in, if anybody has like garage space or wants to host a team, has extra room or space, there is a portal for that now. They have reached out, like, if you want to host a team or something like that, you can go online to 100aw.rally.org, I believe, or rally.100aw.org. There is a services offered that, you know, there's a few people that have reached out already asking their committees, like, how can I help? There is a portal and a form that you can fill out if you wanna offer garage space and, you know, cause sometimes it's raining and they're out there in the parking lots. That's the only community related thing I have. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Alderman Whalen.
Nothing at this time.
Alderwoman Cisco, back to you.
I looked at my notes, I remember. Community involvement, it is a recently renamed committee, used to be, community service, I was thinking community works. Community service, we decided to rename that to community involvement to make it a little bit more enticing to people to be a part of. We do have a few new committee members who were approved at the last Alderman meeting, so thank those committee members for joining. Carlos is one of them. I just want to state that we are still looking for people to join that committee, so if you're looking to be involved in your community, be a part of something great in making Salem better, please reach out to me. I'd love to bring you on board. I also want to mention that this committee is, you know, when we look at your emails, if you are on the committee, because Tammy has emailed many of you. We were supposed to have a meeting this coming Thursday, but we didn't have a good response back, so we wouldn't have had a quorum to be able to even meet. Originally, it was just Roma Jones and I on the committee that showed up one time. And so we definitely need to get that going. We do have it rescheduled for the third Thursday in March. So please look your email so you can respond back, or your text message. Tammy did call you from the city number just to reach out to see if you could make it to the meeting. We do have to have a quorum for that, so we need to start focusing on the fireworks. I do want to hopefully be able to have that this year, but if we are going to be looking at fireworks, we need to have that meeting very, very soon. We should have already had it probably this month or last month. However, we couldn't, so we're looking at March, and that will probably be deadline of even being able to focus on fireworks. Second, and last, I want to welcome Emily Cook. She is the new executive director of our chamber. Emily, I also serve as president of or vice president of the chamber board, and we are very, very excited to have Emily. She has great plans for the chamber. So stop in and say hello to her, introduce yourselves to her, because she's looking at all kinds of different routes to bring activities to Salem and Dade County to involve the community. She had all kinds of ideas. She has a background in hospitality, is what she went to school for at College of the Ozarks. So anyway, Emily is going to be a huge asset to the chamber, and I want to thank Tabitha for the 9 years that she served on chamber. She did a phenomenal job. She took chamber to a whole nother level. As far as I've been involved or known of chamber, it's always been Tabitha. So very thankful for what she's been able to accomplish with the chamber. And now we're excited to see where Emily takes chamber to the new future. So that's all I have.
Are you sure?
Positive, carry on before I remember something.
I'm afraid to move on. Well, last up will be, I need a motion to go into closed session for personnel, contracts, real estate, and attorney-client privilege.
I will move to go into closed session for personnel, contracts, real estate, and attorney contract privileges. I said real estate. Yeah.
Do I have a second? I will call for the vote. Alderwoman Cisco.
Yes.
Alderman Williams.
Yes.
Alderman Boyd.
Yes.
And Alderman Whalen.
Yes.